Hi everybody, it's Carlin here at May Blossom Design. Today I'm going to show you the three main ways that I trim my pieces. So let's get right into it. The first way that I'm going to do, or that I'm going to show you here, is the suction method. I prefer this method the most. I use it the most. But anyway, so first off, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to center your piece. You're going to wet your wheel just a touch and center your piece. I'm going to give it a little tap on the top just to make sure it's good and secure. So then I like to start with leveling my base first, which also acts as kind of like a double check on making sure your piece is secure. I found that when I started on the sides, I kind of would throw it off balance first until it was really good and suctioned. So, anyway, I start with the top and then I do the sides. And I find with the section method, when you're doing sides, because there's nothing on the bottom, you can get a really nice, clean, even finish that sometimes is a little bit harder to achieve when you have to use lugs or a chuck or something like that. So then when the sides are done, I just go back to the base and I make sure that it's even. If you want to add a foot, this is when I would add it. I didn't add any feet to these uh, vases because I didn't keep my base thick enough, unfortunately. So they are flat. But I did add just a small little um, ledge, I guess you could say, to the very bottom, just to kind of give it that little bit of an elevated look when it's sitting on the table. And once you're done all your trimming, then I just take a rib and I smooth out all the surfaces to make glazing easier and to make the clay feel nicer. I finish the bottom and the sides, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this trimming. And then I just remove it off the wheel and do any cleanup that's needed. Sometimes when you put the moisture on the wheel, it kind of makes your rim a little wonky. So I just clean it up, and yeah, that's it for the suction method. So the next method that I'm going to show you is with a chuck. Now I threw this chuck, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I just keep it wet and I keep it wrapped and I just use it every time that I need it. So I just threw myself a chuck that is big enough and it has a little bit of a foot so I can suction it to the wheel. So yeah, you center it just like you center anything else, and then you place your piece on top. Now you can, so because this has a longer neck, obviously I can't use the suction method to trim the bottom. So I stick it in there, and you can use lugs on the side. I don't. I find that again, it's harder for me to get a nice clean base. Um, but you definitely can if that's what you want, if you're not confident that it'll stay in there. But this one I was pretty confident. So again, you just start with the base and then just work your way out. And if you find that you need something to put on top to hold it, you can get these little spinners, and they help put pressure on the top of your piece so that it'll stay in place so that you don't have to use lugs as well. I believe this one came from Timu. Not sure if I'm allowed to say Timu or not, but that's where it came from. And yeah, so then you just work on your sides and take off any excess that you need. And then when you have taken off everything you want from the sides, you can just remove the spinner and level out your base. And again, this is when I would add the foot once my base is level. But again, because I threw these pieces with a little bit too thin of base, I won't be adding feet to any of them. But just like the first one, there will be a little ledge on the side so that it's almost like a little bit lifted, gives that lifted look when you set it on a table. And then again, just using a rib to finish up, to smooth the edges, um, and make sure everything is nice and smooth and looks complete. And sometimes they pop out of the truck. It happens. Then again, when you're done, just take a quick peek. If you need to clean it up, you definitely can. This one, I didn't need to really trim the top. I did that kind of when I was throwing it. Um, but yeah, just clean up the edges and make everything look finished. So with my chuck, in order to keep it leather hard, every time I use it, I dip it in my cleaning water. And I just get the whole entire thing wet and then I wrap it up wet and I wrap it up tightly. And it's been sitting on my shelf for at least a month, probably more, probably closer to 2 months. Um, and it works great like that. I've never had a problem. It's always leather hard. And if it is a little bit on the dry side, then I just dip it again and use it again. But it works great. If you can do that, it works great. So the last method that I sometimes have to use is lugs. And I'll be honest, this is my least favorite method. Um, I find, I don't know why, but I just don't like it. I don't like using it. I find that I can't get an even trim most of the time. This time it worked out, I think probably because of the shape of the piece. Um, but if I don't have to use lugs, I definitely choose not to use them. But for the sake of this video, these are the three different ways that I do trim my pieces. So I'm going to show you how I do it. So I just take 3 pieces of the soft, freshest clay that I have, center my piece, and attach them. And I try to attach them in like a triangle type way. I find it holds your piece the best. Pardon me. And then again, like everything, I trim the base first, I get it level, and then I work on my sides. So when trimming with lugs, obviously for me, the biggest downfall is that you can't trim the whole piece all the way to the bottom. So I use lugs when it comes to pieces like this that I finished the top on the wheel and I can trim with lugs on the base. Because it doesn't work for the suction method with this shape, for me anyway. But I know that lugs will work. So I just make sure that I finish the top on the wheel and I can trim with lugs on the base. And my chuck, it doesn't fit in my chuck. So that's another reason I have to use lugs. So then once I've done the sides, just like the other two previous, I go and finish, make sure that the base is level again. And if you're going to add a foot, this is where you would add it. But I threw my pieces too shallow, so they don't have a foot. But they do have the little edging to make it look like it's a little bit lifted off the table or desk or wherever these will be placed. And then again, like always, just go in with your rib, smooth everything out, give it a really nice finish. And yeah, then we can clean it up and take it off the wheel. So to take off the lugs, you just pull them off. If it's really wet clay, you're probably going to have a little bit that sticks to the rim. But just like every other trimming method, you'll clean it up with a wet sponge or damp sponge. And yeah, then you'll be left with a nice finished piece. So these are the three main ways that I trim my pieces. Again, it all depends on the size, shape, and how I can get it done. But yeah, if you've watched my whole video, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.